The unexpected helper. Zarathok had never seen a human before the day everything changed. The Kalari medical officer stood barely 4 feet tall, her blue-scaled hands trembling as she watched the massive alien stumble through the corridors of Station Gamma 7. Blood, bright red and distinctly different from any species she knew, dripped from multiple wounds across his body. The human was enormous by galactic standards. Nearly 7 feet of muscle and bone, covered in what appeared to be some kind of military uniform, now torn and burned. His face showed pain, but his eyes held something that made Zarathok's heart race with fear. Not the fear of being hurt by him, but the fear of what might happen if she didn't help. Station Gamma 7 was a neutral trading post, floating in the void between 3 different stellar nations. The Kalari ran the medical bay, the Vorthak handled security, and the Empress Collective managed trade operations. It was supposed to be a place where conflicts ended at the airlock, but recent weeks had brought tension, even here. The human had arrived 3 days ago on a small transport vessel, claiming to be a diplomat from something called the Terran Federation. Most species had heard whispers about humans in recent years. They were new to the galactic community, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. The rumors painted them as either primitive barbarians or dangerously unpredictable. Zarathok had been working late in the medical bay when the explosion rocked the station. Through the viewports, she saw the human's ship erupting in flames. Someone had planted a bomb. Now he stood before her, the only survivor of what was clearly an assassination attempt. "Please," the human said, his voice deep and rougher than she expected. "I know you don't know me, but I need help." Standard protocol demanded she contact station security first. The Vorthak guards would handle any criminal investigations. But something in the human's eyes stopped her. Pain, yes, but also a desperate honesty that reminded her of her own children when they were hurt and scared. "Sit down," she said quietly, gesturing to the medical bed. "Let me see your injuries." The human's name was Marcus Chen, and as Zarathok worked to clean and treat his wounds, he explained what had happened. He had come to Station Gamma 7 to negotiate a peace treaty between the Terran Federation and the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians were an aggressive species that had been raiding human colonies along the border, taking slaves and resources. "We just want them to stop attacking our civilians," Marcus said as Zarathok sealed a deep cut on his arm. "We offered trade agreements, technology sharing, even territorial concessions. But someone doesn't want peace." Zarathok had heard about the Zephyrian raids. Her own people, the Kalari, had suffered similar attacks decades ago before agreeing to pay tribute. It was easier than fighting, they had decided, safer for their families. "Who would want to stop peace?" she asked, though she suspected the answer. "The Corvani Syndicate has been supplying weapons to the Zephyrians," Marcus explained. "They profit from the conflict. A peace treaty would end their business arrangement." The Corvani were well known throughout this sector as arms dealers and mercenaries. They controlled several systems and had enough political influence to make problems disappear. If they wanted Marcus dead, he wouldn't survive another day on the station. "You should leave," Zarathok said as she finished treating his injuries. "Take one of the emergency pods and get to the nearest human territory." Marcus shook his head. "I can't. There are 200 human civilians being held in Zephyrian slave camps. If I don't complete these negotiations, they'll die. Or worse." Zarathok felt her scales prickle with anxiety. She had seen what happened to species that crossed the Corvani Syndicate. Her own brother had tried to expose their illegal mining operations on a Kalari colony world. His ship had suffered a navigational malfunction a week later. No survivors. "Then stay hidden," she urged. "Let me send a message to your people. They can send someone else." "There is no one else," Marcus said sadly. "Earth's diplomatic corps is new. We only have 12 trained negotiators for the entire galaxy. I'm the only one in this sector. Over the next several hours, Zarathok found herself drawn into conversation with the human. She learned about Earth, a blue and green world with vast oceans and billions of humans. She learned about human families, how they protected each other with fierce loyalty. She learned about human music, art, and their strange habit of keeping animals as companions rather than food. Marcus showed her pictures on his communication device. His wife, Sarah, smiling in a garden full of colorful flowers. His 2 daughters, playing with a 4-legged creature called a dog. His parents, elderly but proud, standing in front of what he called their family home. "We're not warriors by choice," Marcus said as dawn approached on the station's artificial day cycle. "But we will fight for what matters. Our families, our friends, our values. We believe that everyone deserves freedom and safety." Zarathok thought about her own family back on Kalari Prime. Her mate, Korthan, working in the mineral processing plant. Her 3 children studying in schools that taught them to be quiet, to not draw attention, to survive by being invisible. The Kalari way had always been to avoid conflict, to bend rather than break. But looking at this human, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. "There might be a way," she said finally. "I have access to the station's communication array. I could send a message to Earth, but not through normal channels. The Corvani monitor all official communications." Marcus sat up straighter. "What kind of message?" "An emergency medical alert," Zarathok explained. "As Chief Medical Officer, I can declare a quarantine situation that requires immediate evacuation of specific species for their safety. It would go directly to your government's emergency protocols, bypassing normal diplomatic channels." It was a dangerous plan. If the Corvani discovered what she was doing, they would make her disappear just like her brother. But as she looked at the pictures of Marcus's family again, she made her choice. The message she sent was simple but clear. "Human diplomat Marcus Chen attacked on Station Gamma 7. Assassination attempt by Corvani Syndicate confirmed. Immediate extraction required. Human civilians in immediate danger if negotiations fail. Medical emergency protocols in effect." She also attached Marcus's diplomatic credentials and all the evidence he had gathered about the Corvani weapons sales to the Zephyrians. "Now we wait," Zarathok said as she finished encoding the transmission. Marcus grasped her small hand with his large one. "Thank you. I know what you're risking for me." "My brother always said that doing the right thing is never safe," she replied. "But living without doing right isn't really living at all." They didn't have to wait long. Within 6 hours, Zarathok's communication device chimed with an incoming message, but it wasn't what she expected. Instead of a simple acknowledgement, the message was from someone called Admiral Sarah Chen. "Dr. Zarathok," the message began, "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation Navy, and Marcus Chen is my husband. Thank you for protecting him. A rescue fleet is en route to your position. Estimated arrival, 18 hours. Please keep him safe until then. You have the eternal gratitude of Earth." Marcus stared at the message, then looked at Zarathok with wonder. "My wife is coming for me. She's actually coming." But Zarathok felt a chill run through her scales. "A rescue fleet? Marcus, how many ships is your wife bringing?" Marcus checked his own communication device, which had remained hidden during his treatment. His eyes widened as he accessed Terran military channels. "According to this, she's bringing the Third Fleet, 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, and 2 dreadnoughts." "For one person?" Zarathok asked in disbelief. "For one person who was hurt while trying to save others," Marcus corrected. "That's how humans work. We protect those who matter to us, and we never abandon our own." As if summoned by their conversation, the station's alert systems began wailing. Through the medical bay's viewports, Zarathok could see Corvani warships approaching Station Gamma 7. 6 heavy cruisers bristling with weapons, moving in an aggressive formation. "They know," Marcus said grimly. "They're here to finish what they started." Zarathok's communication device chimed again. This time it was Station Commander Veltok, a Vorthak who had run Gamma 7 for 20 years. "All medical staff report to emergency stations," his voice crackled through the speakers. "We have incoming hostile vessels demanding surrender of the human diplomat. Standard neutrality protocols are suspended. This is not a drill." Marcus stood up, testing his newly treated injuries. "I won't let them destroy the station because of me. I'll surrender." "No," Zarathok said firmly. "My brother taught me that sometimes you have to stand up to bullies, even if it scares you." She activated the medical bay's lockdown systems. "We wait for your wife." Outside, the Corvani fleet surrounded the station. Their communications came through clearly. "Surrender the human or we will take him by force. You have 1 hour to comply." But Marcus was smiling. "Zarathok, look at the long-range sensors." She checked her equipment and gasped. At the edge of the system, new contacts were appearing. Dozens of them. The Terran Federation Third Fleet had arrived early, and they were coming fast. The rescue fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their weapons already charged and shields raised. At their head flew a massive dreadnought with Terran Federation Admiral's flag painted along its hull. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice echoed through every communication channel in the system. "This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Federation Navy. You have threatened my husband and a neutral medical facility. You have exactly 60 seconds to withdraw from this system before I demonstrate why attacking humans and their friends is a very bad idea." The Corvani commander responded with typical arrogance. "This is Corvani space, human. Your primitive vessels are outnumbered. Withdraw or be destroyed when Earth comes calling." The space around Station Gamma 7 suddenly filled with human warships that seemed to materialize from nothing. What the Corvani had thought was a modest rescue fleet of 50 vessels was actually over 300 ships. The humans had used advanced stealth technology that made most of their fleet invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. Zarathok watched through the medical bay's viewport as the massive human formation took position around the station. The ships were sleek and angular, painted in dark colors that seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars. Unlike the bulky industrial designs favored by most galactic powers, human vessels looked like they had been built for speed and precision. "Sweet stars," whispered Commander Veltok over the station's communication system. "I've never seen so many warships in one place." Admiral Sarah Chen's voice filled the void again, but this time she wasn't speaking to the Corvani. Her words were being broadcast to every system within 50 light years. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, her tone calm but carrying an edge that made Zarathok's scales shiver. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation Navy. 3 days ago, terrorists attempted to assassinate my husband while he was engaged in diplomatic negotiations to save human civilian lives. These terrorists are members of the Corvani Syndicate, a criminal organization that profits from slavery and war." Marcus listened intently to his wife's speech, pride and concern warring on his face. "She's not just here to rescue me," he murmured to Zarathok. "She's making a statement." Admiral Chen continued her broadcast. "The attempt on my husband's life was enabled by weapons and intelligence provided by the Corvani Syndicate. But my husband survived because of the courage and compassion of Dr. Zarathok, Chief Medical Officer of Station Gamma 7. She risked her life to save a stranger, asking nothing in return." Zarathok felt her hearts racing. Why was the human admiral mentioning her by name to the entire galaxy? "This is what humans call a teachable moment," Admiral Chen's voice carried across the stars. "When you help a human, Earth remembers. When you threaten a human, or those who help us, Earth responds. Today, you will learn the difference. The Corvani commander, a species known for their aggressive nature and thick armor plating, sounded less confident than before. Admiral Chen, we have 6 heavy cruisers and the most advanced weapons in this sector. Your stealth tricks don't change basic mathematics. Sarah Chen's laugh was cold. Commander, you're thinking like every other species in this galaxy. You're counting ships and calculating firepower. You're fighting the last war, not this one. At her signal, something extraordinary happened. The human fleet began to move in perfect synchronization, like a school of fish responding to a predator. But more than that, Zarathok noticed that every ship was broadcasting detailed scanner readings of the Corvani vessels. Corvani Heavy Cruiser Designation, KS-7749, Admiral Chen's tactical officer announced over open communications. Your starboard shield generator has a 17% efficiency drop due to poor maintenance. Your missile tubes 3 and 7 are loaded with older generation warheads with known vulnerability to our electronic countermeasures. Your crew of 412 includes 73 conscripted slaves from 7 different species. The level of detail was staggering. The humans weren't just scanning the ships, they were looking inside them, analyzing everything from power distributions to crew positions. Impossible, the Corvani commander sputtered. Our ships are shielded against all known sensor types. All previously known sensor types, Admiral Chen corrected. Humanity has been part of galactic civilization for only 50 years, Commander. We've spent that time learning, watching, adapting, and we've developed some new toys. Marcus explained quietly to Zarathok. Human military doctrine is based on information warfare. We don't fight fair. We fight smart. The demonstration continued as the human fleet revealed more of their capabilities. Their ships could apparently see through any known stealth technology, detect individual life signs through heavy armor plating, and even analyze the chemical composition of enemy weapons in real time. But Admiral Chen wasn't done with her lesson. Computer, she commanded. Display tactical analysis of Corvani Syndicate military assets within a 50 light-year radius. The space around Station Gamma 7 suddenly filled with holographic displays visible to all ships present. It showed a 3-dimensional map of local space with every Corvani military installation, hidden base, and patrol route marked in detail. The map even showed real-time positions of individual Corvani ships across multiple star systems. Holy Void, Commander Veltok whispered. They've been watching everything. The Corvani commander's voice had lost all of its earlier arrogance. How? How did you gather this intelligence? The same way we learned that you've been selling weapons to 17 different terrorist organizations, Admiral Chen replied. The same way we discovered your slave markets on Corvani Prime. The same way we found your secret meetings with Zephyrian war chiefs. We pay attention, Commander. We remember everything. Zarathok was beginning to understand the true scope of what she was witnessing. This wasn't just a rescue mission. The humans had been preparing for a larger confrontation with the Corvani Syndicate, and the attack on Marcus had simply provided them with the justification they needed. Here's what's going to happen, Admiral Chen announced. First, you will immediately withdraw all Corvani forces from this system. Second, you will release every slave held in Corvani territory within 72 hours. Third, you will cease all weapon sales to groups engaged in attacks on civilian populations. The Corvani commander's response was predictable. We reject your demands, human. The Corvani Syndicate has never bowed to threats from primitives. I was hoping you'd say that, Admiral Chen replied with satisfaction. Computer, initiate Operation Reckoning. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human fleet didn't attack the Corvani ships around Station Gamma 7. Instead, they struck simultaneously at every Corvani military installation within 50 light years. The holographic display showed human strike teams appearing throughout Corvani space. They moved with surgical precision, hitting weapons depots, communication centers, and command facilities. But most importantly, they were systematically destroying every slave-holding facility in the sector. Corvani Base Theta 9, your slave processing center is now offline, Admiral Chen's tactical officer reported calmly. Corvani Mining Station 7, your forced labor camps have been liberated. Corvani Outpost 12, your weapons stockpile has been neutralized. The attacks were happening in real time across dozens of systems. Zarathok realized that the fleet around Station Gamma 7 was only a small part of a massive operation that must have involved hundreds of ships and thousands of personnel. "How many humans are there?" she asked Marcus in amazement. "About 12 billion on Earth alone," Marcus replied, "plus another 3 billion in our colonies, and we've all heard stories about what happens when humans get angry." The Corvani commander was frantically trying to contact his bases, but receiving only automated messages. "This facility has been secured by Terran Federation forces. All personnel are unharmed but under protective custody. All slaves have been freed and are receiving medical attention." "You're attacking sovereign Corvani territory," the commander protested. "This is an act of war." Admiral Chen's voice carried a note of grim humor. "Commander, you declared war on us the moment you tried to kill my husband. You just didn't realize it yet. Humans don't start fights, but we finish them." The tactical display continued to update as human forces completed their objectives throughout Corvani space. But what impressed Zarathok most wasn't the military precision. It was the care being taken with non-combatants and slaves. "Attention liberated individuals," a human voice was broadcasting from each captured facility. "You are now under the protection of the Terran Federation. Medical teams are standing by to assist with any injuries or health concerns. Transportation to your home worlds will be provided free of charge. No one will be abandoned." Marcus noticed Zarathok's expression and smiled. "That's the other thing about humans. We don't just break things. We fix them too." The Corvani were discovering that their entire military infrastructure had been mapped, studied, and systematically dismantled in a matter of hours. But the humans weren't stopping there. "Phase 2 of Operation Reckoning is now commencing," Admiral Chen announced. "We will now demonstrate what happens to those who profit from slavery and terrorism." The human fleet around Station Gamma 7 suddenly moved into action. But instead of attacking the Corvani ships, they surrounded them with a cage of energy fields that made escape impossible. "Corvani vessels, you are now trapped in a containment field generated by our fleet," Admiral Chen explained. "Your weapons are offline, your communications are limited to this frequency, and your life support is being maintained by our systems. You are now completely dependent on human mercy for your survival." It was a devastating psychological victory. The Corvani, who had built their reputation on strength and aggression, had been reduced to helpless prisoners without a single shot being fired. But Admiral Chen wasn't finished with her demonstration. "Citizens of the galaxy," she broadcast again, "what you are witnessing today is the result of attacking humans or those who help us. The Corvani Syndicate controlled over 40 star systems this morning. As of now, they control 0. Their military assets have been neutralized, their slaves have been freed, and their leadership is in custody." The scale of the operation was staggering. In less than 6 hours, the humans had effectively dismantled an entire criminal empire that had terrorized this region of space for decades. "How is this possible?" Zarathok asked in wonder. "How could your people plan something this massive so quickly?" Marcus looked at her seriously. "Zarathok, you saved my life. But more than that, you risked everything to help a stranger because it was the right thing to do. When Earth learned what you had done, every human in the Federation wanted to make sure you were protected. This entire operation," he continued, gesturing at the massive fleet surrounding them, was planned and executed in 18 hours. Not because it was strategically necessary, but because Admiral Sarah Chen wanted to make sure that anyone who might threaten you in the future would think twice. The truth of his words hit Zarathok like a physical blow. This wasn't just about rescuing Marcus or even stopping the Corvani Syndicate. This was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Earth protects its friends with the same fierce determination that it protects its own. Admiral Chen's voice filled the void once more, but this time she was speaking directly to Zarathok. "Dr. Zarathok, this is Admiral Chen. Would you please bring my husband to Docking Bay 7? I'd like to thank you personally for keeping him safe." As Marcus and Zarathok made their way through the station's corridors, they passed viewports showing the transformed space outside. Where once there had been a tense standoff between a few dozen ships, there was now a human fleet so large it seemed to fill the entire star system. "Zarathok," Marcus said as they walked, "I want you to know something. After today, you'll never be alone again. Earth remembers its friends. If you ever need help, anywhere in the galaxy, you just have to ask." Looking out at the massive human fleet that had appeared to protect her, Zarathok finally understood what her brother had meant about doing the right thing. Sometimes doing right didn't just save your own soul. Sometimes it brought an entire star fleet to your defense. Sarah Chen's reply was cold as space itself. "Corvani vessels, you are outnumbered. You just don't know it yet." That's when the rest of the human fleet, Deklo, said the new alliance. The first thing Zarathok noticed about Admiral Sarah Chen was that she was smaller than her husband. Where Marcus stood nearly 7 feet tall, Sarah was barely 6 feet, with gray streaks in her black hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of years spent making difficult decisions. But when she looked at Zarathok, her smile held the warmth that had been missing from her tactical communications. "Dr. Zarathok," Admiral Chen said, taking both of the Kalari's small hands in her own, "you saved my family. Everything I have is yours if you ever need it." They stood in Station Gamma 7's main docking bay, surrounded by human Marines who had arrived to secure the facility. The Marines wore armor that seemed to shift and adapt to their surroundings, and their weapons hummed with energy that made the air itself taste different. But despite their fearsome appearance, they moved with careful precision around the station's alien civilians, offering medical aid and reassurance in multiple languages. "I only did what any doctor would do," Zarathok replied, still overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had happened. "No," Marcus said firmly. "Most doctors would have followed protocol, called security first, covered themselves legally. You chose to trust a stranger and risk your own safety. That's not medicine, that's courage." Admiral Chen nodded agreement. "Which is why I want to offer you something, Dr. Zarathok. The Terran Federation needs medical officers who understand both human and alien physiology. We're expanding our diplomatic presence in this sector, and we need someone we can trust absolutely to head our medical services." Zarathok's scales shifted color with surprise. "You want me to work for humans?" "I want you to work with humans," Sarah corrected. "As an equal partner. Your own ship, your own staff, full authority over all medical operations, and more importantly, the full protection of Earth." Around them, the transformation of Station Gamma 7 continued. Human engineering teams were already working to repair the damage from the earlier explosion, but they weren't just fixing things. They were improving them. The medical bay where Zarathok had treated Marcus was being equipped with technology she had never seen before, devices that could apparently heal injuries in minutes rather than days. Commander Veltok approached their group, his usually stern Vorthak features showing what might have been relief. "Admiral Chen, I wanted to thank you personally. The Corvani have been bleeding this station dry for years with their protection fees. We never had the strength to resist them." "You won't need to resist them anymore," Sarah replied. The Corvani Syndicate is finished as a military force. Their ships have been impounded, their leaders are in custody, and their slave operations have been dismantled. The systems they controlled are now under Terran Federation protection until legitimate governments can be established. The speed of the transformation was staggering. In less than a day, the humans had eliminated a criminal empire that had dominated this region of space for decades. But what impressed Zarathok even more was what they were doing with their victory. The freed slaves are being taken to medical facilities on Terra Nova, Marcus explained as they walked through the station. Full health screening, psychological counseling, job training if they want it. Anyone who wants to return to their home worlds gets free transport. Anyone who wants to stay and build a new life gets citizenship in the Federation. Through the viewports, Zarathok could see human hospital ships arriving to take custody of the liberated slaves. The ships were enormous, painted white with red crosses that Marcus explained were ancient human symbols for medical aid. Each ship could apparently house thousands of patients and had medical facilities more advanced than most planetary hospitals. "How many slaves did you free?" she asked. 17,000? 412 individuals from 43 different species, Sarah replied immediately, including 12 Kalari who had been captured during raids on your outer colonies 5 years ago. Zarathok stopped walking. 12 of my people? Alive? Very much alive, Sarah smiled. In fact, one of them specifically asked to meet you. It seems your reputation as a healer extends beyond this station. The reunion took place in the station's main conference room, which had been converted into a temporary medical facility. The Kalari survivor was an elderly male named Tekran, his scales pale from years of poor nutrition, but his eyes bright with hope. "Dr. Zarathok," he said in their native language, "I heard your voice on the human communication channels. When they said a Kalari doctor had helped save the human diplomat, I knew it had to be you. Your medical research is taught in universities across our homeworld." "I'm nobody special," Zarathok protested. "You're wrong," Admiral Chen interjected softly. "Computer, display current galactic communication logs regarding Zarathok of Kalari." The air above the conference table filled with text in dozens of languages. Message after message from across the galaxy, all talking about the Kalari doctor who had risked everything to save a human diplomat. But these weren't just news reports. They were personal messages from individuals across hundreds of worlds. From the Andromedan Collective, the courage shown by Dr. Zarathok proves that heroism transcends species barriers, Admiral Chen read. From the Centaurian Republic, we formally request exchange programs with both Kalari and human medical institutions. From the Rigel Trade Alliance, Dr. Zarathok's actions demonstrate the values we should all aspire to in galactic citizenship. There were hundreds of messages from governments, institutions, and individuals. What had started as a simple act of medical compassion had become a symbol for something larger. "You've become famous," Marcus said with amusement. "There are already 3 documentary teams requesting interviews, and the University of New Geneva wants to offer you an honorary doctorate." But the most important message came from closer to home. The Kalari Planetary Council had sent an official communication that made Zarathok's hearts race. "Dr. Zarathok," the message began, "your actions have brought great honor to our people. More importantly, your courage has led to the liberation of our citizens who had been lost to us. The Council formally requests that you serve as our official liaison to the Terran Federation. Your people need you to help build this new alliance." Admiral Chen watched Zarathok's reaction carefully. "The Federation Council has already approved a formal alliance with the Kalari government. Full technology sharing, mutual defense agreements, joint exploration missions. Your people will be the first non-human species with full equal status in the Federation." The implications were staggering. For centuries, the Kalari had survived by avoiding attention, paying tribute to stronger species, and hoping to be left alone. Now they were being offered partnership with the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. "Why?" Zarathok asked. "Why would you offer so much for one person's actions?" Sarah Chen's expression grew serious. "Because one person's actions revealed the character of an entire species. You didn't help Marcus because you thought Earth would reward you. You didn't even know Earth existed as a significant power. You helped him because it was right. That's the kind of species we want as partners." But there was more to the story, as Marcus explained during their private conversation later. "The truth is, Zarathok, Earth has been watching the Kalari for years. Your people's medical advances, your peaceful nature, your scientific achievements. We've been hoping for an excuse to make contact. Your actions with me just provided the perfect opportunity." The humans, it seemed, had been systematically studying every species in the galaxy, looking for potential allies who shared their values. The Kalari had been at the top of their list for formal diplomatic contact. "We don't want to rule the galaxy," Marcus continued. "We want to partner with species who believe in freedom, justice, and mutual respect. Your people have shown those values consistently for centuries." Over the following days, as the human fleet completed its operations in the region, Zarathok watched the emergence of a new galactic order. The Zephyrian Empire, deprived of their Corvani weapons suppliers and faced with overwhelming human military superiority, agreed to immediate peace negotiations. The human civilians in their slave camps were released within hours, but the humans weren't content with just ending the immediate crisis. They were systematically dismantling the network of criminal organizations, corrupt governments, and illegal operations that had plagued this entire region of space. "It's not just about stopping the bad guys," Admiral Chen explained during one of their daily briefings. "It's about creating conditions where good people can thrive. We can't protect everyone personally, but we can make sure that anyone who helps humans or upholds the values we share knows they have Earth's backing." The message was being heard across the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humans before were suddenly taking notice. Some with fear, others with hope, but all with the understanding that the galactic balance of power had fundamentally shifted. Zarathok's decision was easier than she had expected. When the Terran Federation formally offered her the position of Chief Medical Officer for their expanding diplomatic operations, she accepted immediately. But she also accepted the Kalari Council's request to serve as liaison between their peoples. "I'll need to divide my time between human space and Kalari territory," she explained to Admiral Chen. "That's perfect," Sarah replied. "We're not trying to absorb other cultures into human space. We want to build a network of allied civilizations, each maintaining their independence while sharing common values." The ceremony marking the formal alliance between Earth and Kalari Prime took place on Station Gamma 7, which had been transformed into a symbol of interspecies cooperation. The station now hosted not just human and alien civilians, but joint research teams, diplomatic delegations, and cultural exchange programs. As Zarathok stood on the observation deck, watching human and Kalari ships working together to escort liberated slaves back to their homeworlds, she reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. "Regrets?" Marcus asked, joining her at the viewport. He and Admiral Chen were preparing to return to Earth, where he would brief the Federation Council on the new alliance structures being established throughout the sector. "None," Zarathok replied truthfully. "Though I still can't believe all this happened because I treated one injured diplomat." "It happened because you showed that doing the right thing matters," Marcus corrected, "and because Earth believes that people who do right deserve to be protected." Admiral Chen approached them, carrying a small device that Zarathok didn't recognize. "This is for you," Sarah said, handing over what appeared to be a simple communication badge. "It's connected directly to Earth's emergency response network. If you or anyone under your protection is ever in danger, activate this device. Help will come." "How fast?" Zarathok asked. Sarah Chen smiled. Faster than you can imagine. The galaxy is about to learn that Earth keeps its promises. As the human fleet prepared to depart for their next mission, Zarathok understood that she had become part of something much larger than herself. The galaxy had operated on the principle that might makes right for thousands of years. But now there was a new principle emerging. Right makes might. And anyone who helped uphold that principle would discover that Earth's reach was long, its memory was perfect, and its gratitude was infinite. The age of human protection had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Oaked.